boilers control. If you took power plant, probably took a lot of aspects of industrial boilers, valves, gas drains, feed water system. This portion of the class is concerning about the wiring and the control for the primary control for an oil or gas burner on an industrial scale. So this is one of the most common ones that they used to use a lot in the early 2090s, and it's still very popular. So probably if you go to big boilers, you'll still see this control. Again, it's Honeywell brand. It's the R4795. We will wire this control in the lab next week. I will see the sequence of operation. It's very, very similar to the primary control, just more sensitive and more involved. So it looks like, if you notice from the outside, there is nothing. There's only one reset button. Guys, there's only one reset button on the box because they don't want you to tamper with it. The whole thing is wired from the outside, and it comes with a base. So the base is always wired, and you don't, even if you have to replace the controller, you don't have to take out the base. It just plugs into it. Just like a lot of European controllers. So if you look at this Eastman controller, you can see all the connections here, and this thing will slip right into the base, so the base is always wired. So if you have to change the controller, you don't have to unwire thing. The reason for that is to minimize the wiring and unwiring. Probably have noticed from the boards that screws get loose after a while. The connection can get loose. The wire can get like fatigued, so you don't want to wire and wire a lot. So this is one of the reasons why it comes in a box, and the base is always wired. This is what it looks like from the inside. The base is already bolted into the controller or the boiler, and this is if you take out the top cover. So it provides solid-state electronic flame safeguard protection for commercial and industrial or gas burners. So we can change some of the stuff and the programs in it by changing some of the logic inside. There's a cartridge you can put in and out based on what kind of sequence of operation you need and what kind of fuel you have. It provides pre-purge period before each start with the intermittent pilot. So this pre-purge period is changed based on the size of the chamber. So the post-purge and the pre-purge are decided based on the size of the chamber, the type of fuel, and what else? Type of fuel, how big the chamber is, and also how big of an inducer fan do you have, and what is the draft situation. If you have a big draft, you can purge it faster. Specification, it's approved by the underwriter laboratories where they approve a lot of those controls on electrical equipment. UL even approve the electrical tape sometimes. They provide testing and they provide standard of what's supposed to be the standard for testing these equipment. The capacity for these boilers is between 400,000 and 250,000 BTUs. Yeah.
You wouldn't find this in like regular house, right?
No. You're never going to find that in a real house. Hopefully not. It doesn't make sense at all. It's very expensive. This control is around like over $1,000. Meanwhile, the presidential control is like $70 to $150. So it's very, very different. The solid-state plug-in flame signal allow for the use of UV. What do I mean by plug-in signal? You can change the controls from the inside. You open it up. I'll bring one actually so you can look at it. is an older model. It does not have a lot of changeable or movable parts, but there are ones. It's a fire iron, which is a very similar shape because they can be a little bit interchangeable. And if you see here, this will hook into the base as is, and some of them have this module where you can take out and put back again to change the firing rate. Let me show you another one here. So if you look here, this is another Honeywell where you can take out this controller and put it back again and put another one in. You can order this from the company, or you. It's not going to be actually your responsibility, but whoever installed the boiler and designed the boiler will order the control, and they order the right size logic for it, and it slips in like the Atari game.
Does it just program itself?
Yeah.
You're gonna have to have a scan.
No, no. So it's already pre-programmed. You put it in there, and it will change the entire logic of the pre-pairing and post-pairing and the operating controls. So you can use different signals. They try to make it. They try to make it more interchangeable. So they don't want to make all that. They want to keep this like single stream where they have the same controller, but you can change the logic. These are easy to program, and again, it's basically give you the timing for the pre-purging, post-purging, response time, and what kind of signal am I going to get from the flame detection system. Pre-purge after each cycle, and when the flame goes out, so how long of a pre-purge do we need, and that could be changed from one system to another. They have one button for manual reset, which the operator can use, but other than that, you cannot do much about it. You're not supposed to go and do any internal repair or reprogramming. You can only hit reset. And after 3 resets, it will lock out and it have to be reset. Okay, specification. More. It has an optional alarm. This optional alarm can be set to the control room, or can sound a sound alarm, or turn on a light. Solid state circuits better than vacuum tubes. We used to have some vacuum tubes for relays. What is with the? Why do we need vacuum tubes? Yeah.
Resistance.
The resistance is different, and also air can react with the contacts, and over time it will oxidize whatever contacts you have. So they used a lot of vacuum tubes for resistance and also for conductivity.
So like the same thing with the old TVs.
Yeah, it's a little bit similar.
Sorry.
Not a lot. Pulls in and out. Yeah. We will get to play with one of those at some point. So easy to replace components, plug and play. As you can see, some of them you can take out and change them. And again, the whole module is very well built and it's very expensive. So if something goes wrong and you want to change it, you don't want to spend a lot of money changing the entire controller. You can change the timing just by changing the single components. The operation rate. So minus 40 Fahrenheit and minus 40 Celsius to 125 to 52. So this is kind of tricky because minus 40 degrees Celsius is the minus 40 degrees is the only degree where Celsius and Fahrenheit are the same. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So minus 40 Celsius equal minus 40 Fahrenheit. Huh?
Less than a second to free skin on contact.
Yeah.
How do they?
So, huh? So if you ever were in jeopardy, This is the only degree where minus 40, where Fahrenheit and Celsius meet. And the top is 125 and 52 Celsius, which is very hot. So this is the operating temperature. So it should not, based on that, do you want to place this thing outside? No, this should be inside, indoors. It's not weatherproof. So this is the operating temperature. At some point, probably I'm gonna ask you this, and I think it's in the final or something, because I like it because it's kind of tricky. So minus 40 Celsius is the same as minus 40 Fahrenheit, and the upper is 125 Fahrenheit or 52 Celsius. The voltage is 120 volts, and I hope by now you know what hertz is.
How many cycles?
Yeah, it's frequency. And what frequency do you get in the residential?
10% of that in the direct.
No, we're supposed to be getting like 60 or 59.
But it can be within 10% of that in either direction, it still work, right?
Huh? No, these are actually more sensitive. I don't think it's going to be more than 10%. So these control, because they're electronic and they have a lot of semiconductor, they are very sensitive to frequency. If you change the frequency, it might not work properly. So we want it to be 60 hertz, and I think whether it's 10% or maybe less than that, every control is different. But from what last I checked, it was like 5% below and above. They have one recycle per failure, then it locks out. In residential, how many recycles do we have? Three. This one only once. You can recycle only once, then it will lock out, and somebody has to come and check what went wrong. There's a lot of preventive maintenance done on industrial scale to prevent these things from happening. In residential, people do not take preventive maintenance very seriously. Nobody takes preventive maintenance for personal stuff very seriously. Like, how many people do their, if they bought a new car, not a lot of people go take the car for maintenance every 5 or 10,000 or whatever. It's time consuming and sometimes you don't even need it. But for industrial stuff, you need to do the preventive maintenance because there's a lot of risk. And also for, does anybody have a CDL license? So probably you have to do the maintenance on time. Yeah, you're required to do the maintenance. It's not optional like your car. But thing that has to be changed because you're carrying probably multi-million-dollar
Would
loads.
be liable if you skip maintenance and it causes somebody to die.
Yeah, that's commercial.
So manslaughter, and depending on how they come at you, you can do a nickel. So-
Yeah. So again, when it comes to commercial stuff, you're more liable to have your maintenance go on. Are you guys not talking? You guys not talking?
He said stop talking. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Flame response for this is between 0.8 seconds to 3 seconds.
I mean, 5 minutes. I'm not getting up.
0.8 to 0.3, which again with a core with general road we have is between 1 second and 3 seconds. You don't want them to hide. Terminal specification. Why do we need to know those specifications? In case you are in charge of troubleshooting those controls, probably you're gonna get some extensive training to be able to diagnose these things. But this at least you can pull out from the manual, and they will tell you how much voltage do you expect and how much wattage do you pull out of each terminal. So for terminal 3, we have 125 VA pilot duty. What is VA?
By divided by you,
No?
full times amps,
Yeah, which is what?
Howard's law,
Huh?
at some point.
Is that power?
Yeah, it's watt. So VA. If you go back to the power law, what I tell you, VA, that is something common. So what it means, the pilot duty is 120 watts, 360 watts, and so on.
why don't they just say that?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's just a notation for some industries.
Okay.
The new one stuff usually they say watts now. And I think at some point people were not very
Well, if you
familiar
went
with
to the
this.
store and buy a light bulb and said 60 PA, everybody would do it.
Yeah. Because they deal with consumers, so they put watts.
Yeah.
They expect technicians to know these little tricks. Desire. Come on guys, it's hard for me to talk while you guys talk. So that's watts. And sometimes you will see this VAC, that's just voltage. So familiarize yourself with those notations. Airflow switch, this is the amperage, and tell you VDC here, 30 volt DC. I'm just trying to help you decipher how these codes are done. Fan or burner motor, that's going to be 9.8 amps full load and 58 locked rotor. So you should have really good circuit breaker for that, because if it's locked, it's going to be 58 amps until it moves again, and full load is when it's running normally. So you always have a spike when you So when you start the motor with 0, you have a spike. And it's neutral. So the full load is going to be here. That's going to be 9.8 amps. And this is 58 point what? And you can see that there's so much attention to details, because these things do interact differently and perform differently. The more we have electronics, the more we have to be very sensitive to small little things. You saw the thermocouple presentation, and it works with millivolts, so those things do affect the other loads significantly. For us, it's not a lot, but in a very, very different. Accessories, you can use PV, it's a photocell. You can use rectification, flame rod, ultraviolet. You can use an eye, an optical detector. You can use a tester. There's a place here where you can plug in a tester, and you can get some codes, and there's storage for it. I don't think in this one there is, because this one is an old one. And this one actually still have a changeable relay here where you can take it out and put it back in. But for these ones, if you look, they're very sophisticated. And these at some point used to be sold at between $3,000 and $5,000 for these controls. You can get them now on eBay for $50. And the company probably, if you call them, they will probably ask you to upgrade. Most companies are not liable to provide you with parts for 10 years. I think for cars it's 10 years, right?
That one really into it, I think state by state.
Yeah. So by law, some places they don't provide much support. I know Windows now is send an email saying we're no longer going to support Windows 7. Yeah, it's the best one. I put Windows 10 and I went back to Windows 7. Windows 10 slowed down my computer significantly. So I don't know what would be the option. So if they don't support it, what does that mean? Like you don't get updates? I guess once they start the support, you have 2 or 3 more years and the computer is like not functioning anymore. What about the phones?
I know for like games, if you have an older game and it's like an online only and they cut support, that means they cut the server and the game's done. That's it. They can never play it.
I don't think it's the case with the computers, but for the phones, I know when the iPhone 5 ended in 2015, and by 2017 there was no more apps. Yeah, so you keep like.
They got sued for what they'll do is they'll make it so that at a certain point in an update, certain software will stop working, so you
Yeah.
have to go upgrade.
Yeah.
That one got hit with that fine a couple years ago, it was pretty big.
Yeah, it's intense. But for at least for industrial stuff, there are contracts. If you're gonna invest in equipment for like tens of thousands.
It's right to work stuff.
Yeah.
And they're working on that now to
Yeah.
be able to access things.
It's an interesting policy, but starting to support is something you always have to think about when you install this big equipment. Solid state spark generation. There's also another option you can put into the control. Different timing amplifiers. What is timing amplifier? It's, again, it's included into the cartridge here. It's how much time do we have, for example, from 1 second to 2 seconds to 3 seconds. You can change that by changing the amplifier area. The ultraviolet tube has a life of 40,000 hours at ambient and specific voltage. So those ultraviolet cells, they always deteriorate with time. Over time, they die out. So is like the solar panels you have in your house. They have a life expectancy. I think it used to be 15 years, now it's 30 years. But most of these things over time, they deteriorate and they lose efficiency. So this is the expectancy of how long will it last. 40,000 hours, so this should be a record of how many hours this boiler is running and when is the ultraviolet is expected to fail. Precautions, voltage and frequency sensitive. So for the voltage, it will sound, it's 10 or plus or minus 10% of the voltage. And for the frequency, I think it's less than that. I think it's 5%. Loads have to comply. So all the loads you put into those control has to comply with the amount of wattage we saw before. So if you're going to put a power duty ignition, you should make sure it comply with those loads. Otherwise, it's not going to be able to handle controlling those loads. Check connections, restriction of the main valve, and it's also temperature sensitive. What is the temperature? Minus 40 and plus and top 125. Humidity is a big issue for these controllers. If you're running these in a confined space and there's a lot of humidity, they might not function properly. So with humidity, relative humidity should be near, reach saturation point when you start having to. That could be a big issue for electronics. I know for a lot of high-end electronics, TVs in the past and VCRs, if it's too humid, it will shut off and it will signal that it's too humid in here. We're going to turn it over.
Do they make these like dipped in epoxy to where they can withstand, you know?
No, they make them in a water weatherproof boxes, but they are not designed to be put outside for many reasons. Temperature, frequency, temperature variation, humidity, wind. They are not.
So there's no hardening process?
No, I don't think so. Vibration shortens the component's lives. So, what causes vibration in a boiler? Inducer fan, anything that rotates can vibrate over time. So they should not be put very close to in a place where there's a lot of vibration or a big huge pump, because that will affect your frequency, affect your signals, and so kind of affect the soldering in the inside components. So that's something you should think about. They again never to be installed outdoors. They are not designed to be installed outdoors, even inside a box. So they can be wired for either gas or oil. And probably by now you are very familiar with this wiring. It looks like a very typical Honeywell wiring. They have terminals again. So usually you wire, if you look closely here, there are, I'm going to show you the camera, there are terminals. And those terminals should be solid and should never be changed. And you can alter them based on the type of fuel you have in the burner. So burner motor, similar thing. Again, neutrals come in one line. Main fuel valve, ignition, pilot valve, controller or limits. It's very similar to the primary control. What is the difference here? You have a pilot, right? And you have a burner motor and airflow switch. This is the new stuff that we have. We did not have that. And the airflow is very important for gas. Why is that? We did the lab yesterday and we looked at the gas and we said there's two airflow switches. And why do we make sure that there is airflow in the chamber for pumping gas? Because gas is compressible. And you don't want to compress a lot of gas in the chamber and have it leak out. If you don't have airflow in the chamber and you're pumping gas, the gas is going to come back. It's going to be pressurized, and once it ignites, it will look for the nearest opening and just you see flame coming back, and that's when you have backfire. This is the wiring for oil. So you can have ignition, first stage oil valve, and second stage oil valve, because we have more than one stage or more than one nozzle. First stage and second stage. So I told you, actually, I should show you that next lab when we wire this controller, that we have first stage and second stage, and we have more than one nozzle into the oil line. These are some of the flame detectors, flame rod or photo cells. So remember the terminal for the cat cell, what was it called in residential? FF. Now we have FG. Why? Because we are sending, F is for flame, it's to detect flame, and G is the ground. So you always need a ground for this controller, because what we're doing is we're changing AC to DC, and we are using our rectification system. So we send the flame, and we go to a ground, and the AC current going into the flame will come back as DC. It's the same thing here for FG. You have the FG, and you also have power supply if you go to use ultra valve. Ultra valve need a power supply to operate, but again, it will send you a signal, FG signals. There's a small ultra valve and there's a big one, depending on the occasion. The small thing will be outside the burner, the chamber, and this is the same eye over here. And this here is the visual that you get from the flame. These are the relays and the internal components. Two relays, 3K and 2K. I think the K number is labeling done by Honeywell, but I believe that the K is the amount of ohms in the coil. So if you go and measure the coil, it's going to be 3 kilo ohms. But I have not seen that interchangeable for other companies. Other companies have different names for the relays, but those are the type of relays. Safety switch reset, and here you'll have your amplifier. So the amplifier is plugged into here. Small amplifier, you can change back and forth, put in the bottom. I'm missing the one here, but you'll see it move up. Amplifier. So what would you do if you want to change the timing and the sequence of operation in any of those controllers? Change the amplifier or change the cartridge. Since these can be opened, at some point they require some certain maintenance on the contacts of the relay. They say never clean the relay with paper or brushes. They have a special contact spray that Honeywell sells that you can spray the contact with. Make sure they're running. On the spot inspection, the first thing you want to inspect is the wire connections. If the thing fails, you gotta check the wiring connection, which is very similar to what we do for residential. We check the wiring connection. Position of the flame detector, that is very, very critical. If it's not in the right position, it's not going to work. And make sure there is no alteration has been made into the base or the holder of the flame detector. Make sure that the place is running in ambient temperature. It's not too hot. Limit switches. Sequence of operation. So first we have the call for heat. That's very similar to what we have for residential. Terminal 1 will energize, relay 3 will pulse in and engage, contact 3K2 and energize terminal 8 for fan or burner motor. So that's what's the pre-purge process. Airflow is proved after the airflow switch has proved that it's running. It will turn on the next stage, which is the pre-purge complete, and then we light the pallet. Once the pallet is proven, the other relay will pull in, and the controller is satisfied, and the main flame is activated. Safety operation. So for flame failure, what would happen if anything fails? So we can check what happens if anything went wrong in the operation. Of course, we have airflow switches now. We have pilot failure. We have flame failure. So we want to check what's happening with the flame failure. What kind of alarm do we get? And those things will not give you a lot of indication what's happening when is wrong. Some more advanced control, they will give you signals and they give you codes to know which one those component failed. So flame failure, this is what will happen. The relay 1K and 2K will drop out, contact will opens and de-energize terminal 3 and 4. If air is still proven, the pre-purge period begins. So if you have flame failure, will cut off the fuel supply and will start purging. You're always going to have to do a purge because you want to make sure there is no fuel remaining in the chamber. If airflow fails, this is the action that will happen. If the pre-purge timer failure, that's another issue. The pre-purge does not happen completely, and that could be a safety issue, and it's a big thing, unlike in a small residential furnace. Hot refractory, hold on. We're not gonna worry about that. What else? Troubleshooting. Just some troubleshooting things. I'm not gonna go over it too much because we're not gonna do much of that troubleshooting. But again, if you were to be in the field and this is something you're gonna be working on with, you're gonna get a lot of training pertaining to this specific controller. So I'll leave that for you to read later on. But I have some troubleshooting regarding this controller. And probably if you, yeah, there's a lot of them here. This is some of the things I pulled up from the manufacturer manual and some procedural things to fix those controllers. But I'm not gonna go on too much. So only use specified contact clear. I said look, in rare occasions you might want to go and spray the contacts in here. As you can see, they are exposed. But again, they are very high-end contacts. Do not attempt to fix them with cleaning paper. Use a spray. Check for voltage variation. That's something you always want to check before you turn it on. Check for ambient temperature. Make sure it's not under sunlight or there's no window heating the controller. And the controller is made out of a lot of metallic parts, which heats up quickly. So make sure there's no sun rays hitting it. And same as before, they're not using abrasive material to clean contacts. Okay, that's all I have for Honeywell R75. 87.
Yes.